Let's take a slow step back in time and see what happens when something essential quietly disappears. Hey guys, tonight we're throwing you into the Stone Age, but not the cozy version with mammoth stew and glowing embers. No, this time we're slipping the fire out of your hands softly, silently, and watching what happens when the world turns cold, dark, and deeply unfriendly. You might think you'd survive a night without it, but the truth is, you probably wouldn't make it past sundown. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments. What time is it where you are? And where are you listening from? Always love seeing where this sleepy little tribe is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't know how you got here, but you know you're not ready. Bare feet, thin hide over your shoulders, a vague sense that the sun set too fast. There's no fire, no spark, not even a hint of smoke. And already, the cold is in your bones. You're in the Forester near one. You can hear the tall trees whispering, rubbing their branches together like old hands. The sky is gray-purple, the kind of dusk that tricks your eyes into thinking it's darker than it is. And the ground? Damp. Not soaking, but soft enough that your toes sink in. You bend down, instinctively patting the earth for warmth. There is none. You didn't build a fire. And now it's too late. The chill isn't dramatis, it doesn't slam into you all at once. It creeps. First around your ankles, then your wrists. Your breath starts to fog. You cup your hands and breathe into them, but it does nothing. You shiver, and it begins small, just the teeth. But soon, your whole frame is trembling. There's no cave nearby, no hut, no glow in the distance, just you, the dark, and the sound of everything that isn't you. Crickets, leaves, a branch snapping under something heavier than wind, and now your heartbeat is louder than anything else. This is how it begins. Historians still argue whether early humans first controlled fire as far back as 1.7 million years ago, or only learned to preserve it much later, perhaps by accident keeping it alive with smoldering wood after lightning strikes. What they do agree on is that once we had it, everything changed. But you don't have it. And right now, you'd give anything for a single spark. You crouch low, hoping your body will conserve heat that way. It doesn't. You rub your arms, tuck your hands under your arms, breathe into your own chest. Still cold. The hide covering you is thin and smells like old smoke. It's meant to insulate, but without fire to dry it out, it's damp, and that makes things worse. In the modern world, you might think, just wait for morning. But here, in the unlit wild, night lasts forever. There is no glowing watch, no gentle light under a bedroom door. Time stretches, bends, curls around you like a snake. You don't know if it's been minutes or hours. Your teeth have been chattering so long, your jaw aches. And worse than the cold, the dark. You can't see your hands, can't see where your foot falls. Everything becomes suggestion. Maybe that's a bush. Maybe it's a sleeping predator. Maybe you should move. Maybe you absolutely should not. You want to build a fire. You want to do something. Anything. Your brain races through those YouTube tutorials you've half watched. Friction fire, bow drill, flint and steel. Surely you remember something? But here's a not-so-fun fact. Most people today, without tools or training, can't make fire in under 2 hours even with perfect materials. And your materials? They're damp. Your fingers? Numb. Your mental state? Slowly unraveling. Even early humans didn't always make fire from scratch. They often preserved it, nurturing embers from one camp to the next, cradling coals in moss and bark, sometimes for days. Because making fire was hard, losing it was worse. Your stomach growls. You haven't eaten. And raw food? A terrible idea. Roots are tough and bitter without heat. Meats will kill you faster than the cold. And your only water source is the stream nearby clear. Sure, but untreated. No boiling. Just icy bacteria swimming freely. One sip might buy you an infection. Two might guarantee it. And then there are the sounds. A low rustle. Then another. You freeze not, because you choose to, but because fear has seized your muscles. You hear snuffling. A grunt. The scrape of something against bark. Maybe it's just a deer. Maybe it's not. Without fire, you're not just blind and cold. You're no longer a top predator. You're food. A walking sausage link made of regret and soft tissue. Here's something odd. In some ancient communities, fire wasn't allowed to die even for a second. Some tribes assigned fire watchers who stayed awake all night just to keep it alive. Losing the flame wasn't an inconvenience. It was a crisis. You get it now. You'd give anything for a flicker, a glow, a single warm ember to tell your nerves that things are going to be okay. But instead, you sit in the cold, trying to stay small, trying not to cry, trying not to attract attention. Your feet are numb. Your hands won't stop twitching. The hide on your shoulders has slipped, and you don't have the energy to pull it back. The night stretches on, and this is only hour 3. You hear something snap in the underbrush. Loud, sharp. Not the wind, not a squirrel, and definitely not something you want to meet in your current state of half-frozen vulnerability. You hold your breath, like somehow silence is a shield, and your ears stretch into the dark, straining for clues. But there's nothing. Just silence again. Heavy. Waiting. The dark is never just dark. Without fire, night becomes a living thing. You can't see it, but you can feel it. Pressing at your chest, wrapping itself around your knees, curling behind your ears like cold breath. And worst of all, you know it sees you. In the modern world, darkness is gentle, optional. There are porch lights, phone screens, car headlights, and enough LED strips to make a teenage gamer's bedroom look like a space station. But here, you're discovering what night actually used to mean. And it's not comforting. It's endless. It's unforgiving. And it doesn't care about your feelings. You try blinking a few times, thinking maybe your eyes just need to adjust. But no, still nothing. The outlines of trees are just guesses. That big rock might be a tree stump, or a crouching something. And that shadow over there, the one that hasn't moved in 10 minutes, it might be just a bush. Or it might be watching you back. Remember earlier when you thought cold was your biggest problem? That was cute. Your body is still trembling, but now it's not just the chill, it's anxiety. Your brain, clever little thing that it is cycling through every animal documentary you've ever half watched. Glowing eyes in the night, silent paws, creatures that wait until you're at your weakest before they move. You try to make your breathing quiet even, but it comes out in short clouds of panic. You're not used to being afraid of the dark. And why would you be? You've spent your whole life assuming darkness was no big deal. At worst, an inconvenience when the power goes out. But here, no electricity, No backup flashlight, no campfire, no comfort, just the dark. You shift your weight slightly. Something squishes underfoot. Probably mud. Probably. Hopefully not something with a pulse. Your imagination is already building entire monsters from shadows. And while we're on that subject, did you know that some scholars believe fire wasn't just a survival tool, but also a psychological one? That's right. Sitting around a fire at night didn't just keep the lions away. It helped calm the human mind. The flickering light, the crackle, the smell of wood smoke, it soothed the nervous system. In fact, studies today show that people's blood pressure drops when they watch a fire. It's like evolution left us with a chill out near the flame switch in our brains. But you don't have a fire right now, which means your anxiety is running the show. There's a rustling sound. You freeze. Again, it's probably wind. Probably. You're saying probably a lot these days. You consider climbing a tree, but your hands are numb, your legs are shaking, and the nearest tree has bark like broken glass. Also, and this is important, many predators also climb trees. So maybe not. Historians still argue whether early fire use was more for cooking or protection. Was it about survival or social bonding? Some even argue fire might be giving us the ability to sleep on the ground again, less need to perch like birds or nest like chimps. Whatever the reason, one thing's clear. Fire made nighttime possible, and without it, the night reclaims what's hers. You crouch low to the ground, hoping maybe that makes you less visible. It doesn't help with the cold, though if anything, it's worse now. Damp air rises off the soil, like it's trying to remind you that even the ground thinks you're making poor decisions. You try rubbing your hands together again. They still feel like frozen towels. You whisper something to yourself, hoping it helps. It doesn't. Then a thought crosses your mind, just for a second, but it sticks. What if the others had fire? Maybe somewhere nearby. A tribe sits huddled around flame. They're roasting roots, drying out their hides, laughing softly at someone's joke. And you? You're here in the dark, alone. No shared warmth, no safety in numbers, just you, being slowly digested by the night. Some indigenous groups, even into the 19th century, had specific fire-carrying tools, little baskets, or clay pots to preserve embers while traveling. They didn't rely on starting fire from scratch each time, because it was too important to lose. Fire wasn't a convenience, it was lifeblood. You finally dare to shift positions. Your knees crack like brittle sticks. You wince. Loud noises feel dangerous now, like each pop is a beacon saying, "Hey predators, fresh snack over here." You look around again. Still nothing. No eyes, no shapes. Just that oppressive, heavy blackness. The kind that makes you question whether your memories of daylight were even real. There's something deeply unfunny about how much your brain panics without a nightlight. You think you hear footsteps. They're slow, deliberate. Could be a deer. Could be a very stealthy something else. You stop breathing again. Then you sneeze. Loud, unavoidable. Great. That's just perfect. And suddenly, the footsteps stop. You hold completely still. Not a twitch. Not a blink. If you could stop your own heartbeat for a second, you would. After a long, long pause, the footsteps begin again, but moving away this time. Slowly, casually, as if to say, "Next time, friend. Next time." You exhale, loudly. You didn't mean to. It just falls out of you like a collapsed tent. Still no fire, still no warmth, but at least you're still alive. For now. Your stomach growls, loudly, like it's trying to embarrass you in front of the forest. You press your hand against it, like that's going to help. It doesn't. The sound echoes against the silence like a slow clap. Well done. You've just announced yourself to every predator within earshot. You exhale through your nose. Hungry. That dull, slow ache of nothing in your belly getting louder by the minute. You haven't eaten well, since before the fire went out. And since you're now stuck in the dark without a flame, your options are as limited as your optimism. Fire used to mean dinner, cooked roots, softened tubers, even meat if you were lucky. With fire, things got safer, tastier, not to mention less likely to kill you via internal revolt. But tonight, you're back to square one, the pre-cooking era, a time when survival meant chewing things that felt like bark and tasted like disappointment. You fumble through the pouch you fashioned from a torn strip of hide and find what you were hoping for, the root you dug up earlier. You hold it to your nose, sniffing like a desperate raccoon. It smells like damp dirt and ambition. You take a bite. It's awful, like biting into raw starch held together by despair. Your teeth barely dent it. The fibers resist like tiny ropes. You chew, and finally just give up. Even your molars are protesting. Cooking breaks down cell walls, releases sugars, makes calories accessible. Without that process, this tuber is basically a fancy stick. You spit it out. Try not to cry. You are, officially, a sad cave person. Historians still debate whether fire came into use first for cooking or for protection. Some believe our ancestors only realized food could be improved once they accidentally dropped it into a blaze. Others think the taste of roasted meat was so revolutionary, it triggered a whole new level of intelligence. Either way, tonight, none of that helps you. And without fire, you can't boil water either. So even drinking from the stream you found earlier is risky. You can't remember exactly what giardia is, but you do remember it's bad. So your water bottle remains empty, and your mouth stays dry. You try walking to distract yourself from the hunger, but walking in the dark is its own special nightmare. Every step is a gamble. Roots reach up like lazy hands. Rocks appear at shin height. Your balance is off from fatigue and the chill. You stumble twice, landing hard on your palms. The ground is damp, cold, and absolutely uninterested in your struggles. You pause to listen. No birds, no frogs, just wind and your own breath. You wonder if early humans kept moving all night, or if they curled up in caves and waited for light. Scholars still argue about that, whether nighttime was for sleep or silent watchfulness. There's evidence for both. Sleeping circles around fires, worn footpaths along cliffs, even red ochre marks in cave walls that might be glowed by firelight. You'd give anything for a glowing cave right now. You crouch near a tree, your back to the trunk, legs pulled in. Hunger pulses behind your ribs. It's not sharp anymore. It's dull and heavy, like your body slowly dimming the lights to conserve energy. And then come the smells. Not real ones. Your brain makes them up. You smell roast meat, a cooked root vegetable, the crust of fresh bread, none of which exists in your reality. Your imagination has gone rogue. It's dangling visions of steaming stews and grilled fish like a cruel prank. You laugh, just a little. It's not funny. But if you don't laugh, you might start howling. You slap at a mosquito on your arm. Miss. Try again. Miss again. The insects love you. You're the only warm-blooded, slow-moving food truck out here. Without smoke to ward them off, they descend like flying vampires. Some groups in the past use specific herbs and leaves to create smoky repellents around their camps. Others just built up big fires and danced around them, half for joy, half for bug avoidance. You think about making a torch, but you have nothing dry, no spark, not even friction tools. Even the most primitive fire drills need time and practice, and without dry bark or twine, it's hopeless. Another stomach growl. You sigh. This one wasn't yours. You freeze. That came from nearby. Not close enough to panic, but definitely within the could wander over here out of a curiosity radius. You lean forward slowly, squinting into the dark. Nothing moves, but that doesn't mean anything. The things that move silently are the ones you worry about. Your memory offers you a fact, something you once read, maybe on a random podcast episode, about how certain predators can smell meat from a mile away. You hope you're not giving off a scent? You probably are. You're stressed, sweating, bleeding a little from your fall. You're basically a walking appetizer. You shift your posture, trying to look less like prey, more like a rock. A very unappetizing, angry rock. For a while, the forest is still, and then something rustles in the brush. You close your eyes, count to 5, hope it's the wind. But when you open them, the sound stops. You wait another minute, then another. Finally, the hunger speaks again, this time louder, sharper. It drowns out fear. You reach back into your pouch, break off another piece of the root, and chew. It still tastes like sadness, but you chew anyway. Maybe this is what survival looked like. Not bravery, not adventure, just chewing roots in the dark and hoping to see morning. You lean back, exhausted. The tree behind you creaks. Somewhere in the branches above, an owl stirs. It hoots once. You flinch again. You're tired of flinching. You pull your cloaker, what's left of it, tighter around your shoulders, and lie back in the dirt. You let your mind drift forward, past the pain, past the cold, past the hunger. You imagine a fire. You don't need it to be real. Just flickering warmth, orange and yellow dancing shadows, the smell of smoke, the pop of wood splitting in heat. You imagine the warmth on your face. Your stomach still growls, but for a few moments, you almost don't mind. You wake up to a drizzle, the kind of steady, quiet rain that doesn't make a sound until it soaks through everything you own. Your cloak is wet. Your hair is wet. Even your dreams feel damp. You blink slowly, eyelids heavy with fatigue, and for a second, you can't remember where you are or why your spine feels like it slept on gravel. Oh, right. You're still here, still cold, still very much without fire. The forest greets you with a stubborn grayness. The light is dim, but technically present. Enough to make out vague shapes and shifting shadows, but not enough to feel like a new day. The sky above is a washed-out curtain of mist, and everything you touch is clammy, squishy, or cold. You sit up slowly, your joints cracking in protest. Congratulations, you've survived the night. Sort of. Your stomach feels hollow, like someone scooped it out and replaced it with fog. Hunger hums through your limbs, not sharp now, just persistent. A background alarm you can turn off. You stretch, yawn, and wince as you realize your fingers have stiffened in the cold. You try to rub them together, like you've seen people do in movies. They make a faint, squeaky sound. That's all. Still no fire, still no warmth. Back in the day, people went to incredible lengths to preserve fire. Some cultures use moss-wrapped embers or buried coals to transport heat across long journeys. Others developed little baskets lined with bark and clay to keep fire alive between settlements. Losing fire was a disaster, and here you are, disastering with style. You rise to your feet and shuffle forward. The earth beneath you squelches unpleasantly. You step around a patch of slippery moss and avoid a puddle that seems deeper than it looks. Each step is cautious, deliberate. Everything is wet. Everything is dangerous. You scan for anything that might help. Dry bark, maybe? A curved stone? Even a hollow tree could be a small mercy. But the forest offers you nothing today, just dripping branches and the occasional indifferent bird. There's something demoralizing about wetness. Cold you can fight, at least a little. But dampness? It seeps into your skin, slides behind your ears, squats in your boots like it pays rent. It saps your will to move. You spot a pile of fallen leaves that looks slightly less saturated. Hope flickers. You bend down and dig through them. Maybe, just maybe, there's something dry underneath. You find a few twigs that feel borderline usable. Into your pouch they go. It's not much, but it's something. A branch cracks in the distance. You freeze. Your first instinct is panic. Something large? Something with claws? But after a few seconds, nothing follows. Maybe it was just a deer. Or a large squirrel with anger issues. Still, your heart's pounding like it owes someone money. You keep walking, trying to stay calm. You notice a strange smell in the air, something earthy, musky. Maybe fungus. Maybe rot. It reminds you of cellars and basements, the kind of scent that suggests time and decay. You follow it instinctively and come upon a fallen tree, half hollow, with an interior that looks dry, or at least drier than everything else. You crouch and peek inside. A bit of soft bark, some strands of old spider webs. Nothing too inviting, but maybe it could work as a tiny shelter. You crawl in slowly, careful not to disturb anything that might bite you out of spite. It's cramped, but it's something. You sit there, knees tucked, back pressed against the curve of wood. Outside, the drizzle continues. Inside, you try to think, strategize, survive. You remember reading once about a tribe that believed fire had a spirit, a little temperamental creature that lived inside wood, waiting to be coaxed out. That idea doesn't seem so strange now. If fire is a spirit, yours has definitely ghosted you. You try rubbing a stick again, this time with a bit more focus. Nothing fancy, just the old twist and hope method. The wood resists. It doesn't even get warm. Your hands ache. You sigh and drop it. Historians still argue whether fire-making spread through invention or imitation. Some believe a single group discovered it, and others learned by watching. Others argue for independent invention in multiple regions. Either way, one thing is clear. Once humans had fire, they never went back. You think of how different this moment would be if you had even a single spark. You could dry your cloak, warm your hands, maybe cook one of those mystery mushrooms. Ah, yes, the mushrooms. You pull one from your pouch. It's squishy now, less appetizing. You consider eating it anyway. You squint at it, trying to remember which ones were safe. Whitecap? Bad? Or good? Spots? Poisonous? Historians argue over whether early humans learned by observing animals or just played high-stakes mushroom roulette. You decide not to join that game. Back into the pouch it goes. You sit there a while, listening to the world drip and shuffle and breathe around you. Then, with effort, you climb back out and start moving again. The hunger is still there, more patient now, lurking. Your limbs feel heavier. You start to fantasize real food, hot soup, even a slightly burnt fish. You imagine sitting next to a fire, steam curling from a carved bowl, the smell of herbs, and something meaty. You step into a clearing. It's small, ringed with tall trees and leafy brush. At the center, a pile of stone stew, regular to be random. You step closer. A fire pit, long, cold, but unmistakably human-made. Charred black rocks. The faint memory of ash in the soil. Someone was here. Maybe days ago, maybe longer. But they had fire. You crouch beside it, brushing away leaves. You find a shard of bone, a sliver of burnt wood. Hope stirs. If they made fire here, maybe they left something behind. You dig slowly, gently, uncovering a few scraps. Nothing useful. But still, it's proof. It can be done. Fire was here. You sit beside the dead pit, imagining it coming back to life. And for a moment, the chill in your bones eases just a little. You spend a long time just staring at that old fire pit. It's a relic, just a simple ring of blackened stones and crumbly ash, but to you, it may as well be a monument. Not grand like a temple or a tomb, but sacred in its own quiet way. Someone made fire here. Someone sat in this very clearing, warmed their hands, roasted food, maybe told stories about the stars, or warned their children about the wolves. Now it's just you, staring down into silence. The stones are cold now. Moss creeps between them. Rainwater has pooled in the dips. The ashes are damp and soft, streaked with age, like charcoal mascara that's seen better days. Still, it glows in your imagination. You close your eyes and picture the fire roaring back to life, dancing flames, cracking bark, the golden light that makes shadows flicker and food sizzle. You reach down and touch the remains. The charcoal crumbles between your fingers, leaving streaks of black across your skin. It feels fragile, like holding a memory. You want to cry, or maybe laugh. Instead, you just sit back on your heels and exhale slowly through your nose. This place is proof. Fire can happen. It did happen. Not long ago, someone else managed to do what you still haven't. It's both inspiring and slightly insulting. Comforting, because it means survival is possible. Cruel, because it wasn't you who pulled it off. But maybe you can change that. You crawl around the fire pit, like a curious raccoon, looking for scraps. Maybe they left something useful behind. A bit of dry kindling, a forgotten ember. But there's nothing. Just a few burnt bones and a shell, perhaps a snail, or something once boiled and slurped in satisfaction. You sigh. Even the leftovers are long gone. You think about moving on, but your legs say no. So does your heart. Something about this spot, the shape of the trees, the way the light filters through the mist, it feels like a second chance. You sit down, cross your legs, pull your damp cloak tighter. Think, these fire pits scattered around the world tell stories older than memory. Archaeologists have found some dating back nearly 1,000,000 years. In caves and open plains alike, you can still find the outlines of ancient hearths. Some are worn deep into the ground, evidence of centuries of use. Layer upon layer of ash, charred bones, burnt seeds, history's campfire smoke, rising upward through time. You'd love to make your own mark here, even just a single coal, something future archaeologists could marvel at. Ah, yes, clearly someone struggled here, possibly cursed at a stick. You gather a few twigs from under a thick patch of brush still damp, but slightly less hopeless than everything else. You try rubbing two together. It's slow, awkward, exhausting. Your palms burn. Your arms tremble. After 20 minutes, all you've accomplished is one sad blister and a renewed sense of humility. You switch tactics. You don't have flint, but you have rocks. Maybe, If you pretend hard enough, they'll believe they're useful. You strike them together. Again, again, nothing. Historians still argue whether early fire starting was an invention of genius or a very lucky accident. Maybe someone smacked two stones together in frustration and noticed a spark land on some dry leaves. Or maybe it was lightning that first taught us. One scholar even suggested early people might have stolen fire from trees after a wildfire racing in, grabbing a burning branch and sprinting out like a mythological thief. You're not sure which story is true, but none of them help you right now. You keep trying anyway. Even a spark would lift your spirits. The rocks clack together. A chip flies off and hits your knee. No spark? You groan and lie back in the dirt. The sky overhead is turning darker, though it's hard to say whether that means nightfall or just more clouds. You're too tired to care. Then a thought hits you. You sit up. Look at the old fire pit again. Maybe, just maybe, there's a bit of charcoal left in there that isn't fully dead. Something that could hold a spark long enough to grow. It's a long shot, but desperation makes a great motivator. You crawl over and dig. Fingers rake through wet ash and mud. You find a chunk of charcoal that feels slightly denser than the rest. Not powder, not crumbling. It might work. You cup it in your hands like a baby bird. Now you need tinder. You pull apart old bark, shred some dry grass you found curled under a log, fluff it into a nest. You build a tiny pile with the charcoal in the center. It looks like a sad birthday cake. Then you grab your rocks again. Strike. Miss. Try again. And again. It becomes a rhythm, a mantra. You breathe in. Strike. Exhale. Strike. Tiny flakes fly off. No fire. And then, just the faintest flash. You freeze. Was that real? You try again. A spark. Small. But there. You hold your breath and lean closer. Blow gently. The spark hits the edge of the charcoal. You see a curl of smoke. Your heart skips. You blow again, softer this time, like coaxing a shy animal out of hiding. The smoke thickens. Then, miracle of miracles, you see a glow. It's tiny, weak, flickering, but it's real. Your first instinct is disbelief. Your second is panic. Don't mess it up. Don't ruin it. You lean in, feeding it wisps of grass, slivers of bark. You whisper nonsense like you're speaking to a baby. Please, just stay alive. The glow deepens. Flames dance up no bigger than a match, but unmistakable. You laugh, more with relief than joy. The heat touches your skin like an old friend. Your hands tremble as you add more fuel. The fire grows, slowly. It crackles. It breathes. And suddenly, so do you. You scoot in closer. Shield it from the breeze. Your face warms. Your fingers stop shaking. Your stomach growls again, louder this time, as if now that you have fire, it dares to hope for food. Later, you'll think about cooking, about how to keep this alive overnight, about how to feed the flames without burning through your only resources. But for now, you just sit and watch it burn. Your fire, not borrowed, not stolen, yours. With the fire crackling in front of you, everything starts to feel just a little less terrifying. You've been cold for so long that you almost forgot what warmth feels like. Now it curls around your fingers, brushes your cheeks, and settles across your shoulders like a sleepy cat. You inch closer to the flames, hands outstretched, palms up like you're worshiping it. And maybe you are. This tiny fire feels like a miracle, a quiet one. No trumpets, no light from the heavens, just steady heat and a soft, flickering glow that says, "You made it, for now." You smile, teeth chattering just a little less than before. The warmth isn't just physical, it's emotional. It pulls you back from the edge, reminds you that you're still here, that you're not just surviving, you're adapting. But with that relief comes a new anxiety, keeping the flame alive. Because this isn't just a comfort, it's your lifeline now, the line between warmth and hypothermia, between cooked food and questionable chewing. The air smells like hope or maybe just wet wood. Either way, it's better than despair. You gather more fuel, testing every stick for dryness. You fluff more moss, peel bark, tuck it close to the fire to dry. You're thinking ahead now. You're strategizing. You're building a tiny future, one crackling log at a time. Then your stomach growls again louder this time. Now that you're no longer shivering, your body remembers it's also hungry. You glance at your pouch of mushrooms. Still untrustworthy. Still your only option. You take one out. It's rubbery and pale, slightly speckled. You sniff it. It smells earthy, like forest floor and faint rot. Not encouraging, but you're desperate. You slice a piece off and roast it over the fire, turning it slowly. It sizzles just a bit. The outside darkens. Steam curls up, smelling faintly like burnt moss. You let it cool, then nibble the edge. Still alive. You chew, swallow, wait. 5 minutes pass. Still alive. That's good enough. You cook more. Slowly, cautiously. Each bite is a risk. But hunger is a great negotiator. And fire, it seems, is a decent chef. Historians still debate how early humans figured out which plants were safe, which mushrooms were fatal, and which were just really unpleasant. Did they observe animals? Test in small doses? Or did they just get unlucky until someone said, "Let's not eat that again"? There's even evidence some societies used taste testers, brave or expendable individuals willing to risk a stomachache for the greater good. You, unfortunately, are both the cook and the taste tester. You manage a modest meal, 3 small mushrooms, lightly toasted, slightly chewy, not too bad. You still feel hungry, but less desperate. That counts. You sit back, wrap your arms around your knees, and stare into the flames. Night has arrived fully now. The forest has gone quiet again, except for the occasional rustle or distant hoot. But it feels different this time. The darkness doesn't press in the same way. You have a buffer now, a small, flickering radius of safety. You feed the fire again and watch it respond. Flames twist upward like dancers. Sparks rise and vanish. The smoke drifts up into the canopy, like a signal no one will ever see. Still, it feels like an answer. You shift your position, stretch out your legs toward the warmth. Your boots steam a little. Your clothes begin to dry. You hadn't even noticed how soaked they were before. You were too cold to care. Now, you feel every inch returning to life. You let your head rest back against a mossy log. Your eyes drift toward the treetops, where branches wave gently like they're applauding your persistence. You think of ancient people again, huddled in circles like this, sharing warmth, sharing food, telling stories, maybe even falling asleep by the fire. Some historians suggest that the hearth was the birthplace of human connection. That sitting around a flame was how we became social creatures, trading tales, forming bonds, creating rituals. You're not telling stories yet, but the idea is tempting. Maybe tomorrow you'll whisper one to the fire, a short one, just to see if it listens. For now, you yawn. Sleep tugs at your limbs like a slow tide. You resist. The fire needs tending, but your eyelids are heavy. You add a few more sticks, just enough to last a while. And then you wrap yourself tighter in your damp cloak. Lean a little closer and close your eyes. Not for long. just a moment, because tonight you have something precious. You have fire, and with fire, you finally have rest. You wake up to the soft sound of crackling wood. For a few disoriented seconds, you don't know where you are. The world feels too quiet, too cold, too still until you realize that what's tugging at your senses isn't dread this time, but the heat gently brushing your cheeks. Your eyes blink open to a dim gray morning, and there it is, your fire, still burning. Not roaring, not glorious, but alive. That's enough. You sit up slowly, your joints stiff, and your back objecting to the mossy ground. Still, nothing hurts quite as much as yesterday. Your body feels like a bundle of creaky, soggy stick-sacky, sure, but functional. The smoky warmth greets your skin, like an old friend you're grateful to see again, even if they tend to cancel plans a lot. You feed the fire a few dry twigs. It sighs, flares up, and crackles in gratitude. You whisper a quiet, thanks, and mean it. You don't even care that you're talking to fire now. It feels more alive than half the people you've been in group chats with. You stretch your legs out and glance at the sky. A dull silver dome, no clear sun, just a bleary mist. Still, it's light. That means time is moving forward, and so are you. Your stomach rumbles, right on cue. You rummage in your pouch, produce the last of the mushrooms, and sigh. Not exactly a gourmet brunch, but it's warm food if you treat it right. And warmth, you're learning, is everything. You roast them carefully, rotating them like marshmallows. There's even a moment, a brief one, where you catch yourself humming, as if this were a peaceful morning at a campout instead of a desperate attempt to not perish in the wilderness. After breakfast, you sit cross-legged and listen. The forest is waking up again. Birds chirp in the high branches, distant and unbothered. Squirrels make their little scampering noises. Somewhere, a crow squawks like it has opinions. You breathe in deeply. The air smells different today, damp, but fresh, with that distinct mix of ash and moss. You've started to associate that smell with survival. Then comes the thirst. You suddenly realize how dry your mouth is, like every breath last night stole a little more moisture from your soul. Time to find water. Again. You leave a few glowing embers nestled safely in the pit, hoping they'll hold your spot until you return. You scoop up your pouch, grab your sharpened stick just in case, and begin moving downhill. It takes longer than yesterday to find the stream. You take careful steps, marking trees with scratches so you can find your way back. The forest feels larger today. Less threatening, maybe, but still immense. You finally hear the gentle burble of running water and push through a curtain of ferns to find the same shallow trickle. You drop to your knees and drink greedily, water spilling down your chin. It tastes like stone and root and everything good. You splash your face. The cold hits you like truth. You laugh softly, feeling awake for the first time since arriving in this mess. You notice a patch of tall grass nearby and begin sifting through it. Hidden under a layer of leaves, you spot wild bulbs, small, knobby, possibly edible. You remember reading something about these. They could be wild garlic or, well, not garlic. You sniff one. It smells pungent, almost right. You take two and stash them for later experiments. Worst case scenario, you just flavor your mushroom soup with danger. On your way back, you gather more dry fuel sticks, bark, anything that doesn't squish. You catch sight of a small rabbit in the distance. You freeze. It doesn't. You make eye contact. It blinks and scampers off before you can even remember how to throw a rock. You grin. Another item on the someday list. Food that moves. Back at your little camp, the fire is down to glowing embers. You drop to your knees and blow gently, coaxing the coals like they're sulky cats. You add kindling. A flame springs up. You laugh an actual surprised laugh. You did that. You brought it back. You roast your mystery bulb over the flames, watching it sizzle and split slightly. The smell is strong, spicy, almost promising. You let it cool. Take a tentative nibble. It's bitter, but not awful. Your stomach doesn't immediately revolt. You chalk it up as a win. Historians still argue whether early humans used trial and error, observation of animals, or even dreams to identify edible plants. Some modern hunter-gatherers report learning safe food knowledge from elders and instinct. Others tell stories of spirit animals or ancestral whispers. You, in your soggy hoodie, are mostly going with desperation and Google memories. As you sit beside the fire, tools scattered around, steam rising from your modest breakfast, you realize something strange. You're not just surviving anymore. You're learning. The fire has become your teacher. It's taught you rhythm, patience, care. You plan your next steps more calmly now. Dry fuel first, water next. Food, if the gods of foraging are kind. You found a system. Primitive, but it works. And there's something else. Last night, the forest felt like it wanted to devour you. Now, it feels like it's watching, curious, maybe even accepting. You catch your reflection in a puddle beside the fire. You look rough, yes, but also capable, less lost, more you. You lean back, stretch, and breathe in the smoke-tinged air. The day is young, and so are your chances. And for the first time since arriving here, you believe, just a little, that you might make it past today. You sit quietly beside your fire, tracing the edge of your stone blade with a half-calloused thumb. It's rough, chipped in places, but sharper than anything you've made before. You lean back against your slightly sagging lean-to, feeling oddly proud. You've even given the blade a name, Stony. Not your most creative moment, sure, but considering the audience, just you, some ferns, and a mildly judgmental squirrel it works. You set Stony beside you, next to your pointy spear. That one's called Ease Pointy. You've started naming your tools. It's either that or start holding debates with tree stumps, and you're saving that for the weekend. Your fire crackles softly, the kind of crackle that almost sounds like it's breathing. The stones you placed around it are doing their job, holding heat and giving structure. You're getting better at this. You tuck in moss and bark before sleep now, protecting coals like tiny glowing secrets. The fire isn't just a tool anymore. It's your heartbeat. When it lives, you live. You scan your little camp. Still a mess. Your lean-to looks like a rejected porcupine. Your fire pit is more of a soot crater. But every bent stick and ash-smeared rock here is part of your world. It's ugly. It's smoky. It's home. And today, you're not satisfied with surviving. You want to thrive. A little. You start with shelter upgrades. You gather longer branches, reinforce the lean-to's sides, and add overlapping bark like scales. When you crawl inside for a test nap, it doesn't leak. That's progress. You pile soft ferns into a corner as a makeshift bed. It still smells like mildew and beetle feet, but it's a far cry from sleeping directly on the roots of sadness. Feeling encouraged, you move to your next big idea. Water. You don't want to hike to the stream every day, so you build a crude catchment system. Big leaves, hollow bark, some angled sticks. When it rains, you hope it'll drip into a dugout pit you've lined with clay and moss. It's primitive plumbing. It leaks, but not completely. And just seeing water puddle into your moss basin feels like discovering gravity. You're improving. Slowly, awkwardly, but improving. Next comes food. The berries helped, and your bug roasting courage earned you a little internal applause. You remember a plant from yesterday, tinny leaves, reddish stems, smelled tangy. You find it again, nibble cautiously. Still sour, still no tongue tingling. Could be wood sorrel, could be luck. Either way, into your pouch it goes. Nearby, you spot another gift of the forest, mushrooms. Not the poisonous ones with red dots. These are dull brown, growing on a fallen log. You hesitate. Fungi are tricksters. You sniff, break one open, check for bruising. It's not a perfect science, but you think you remember these from a foraging guide long ago. You take only a few. No reason to play fungal roulette. Back at camp, you cook your harvest on a flat rock beside the flame. The sorrel wilts nicely, smells citrusy. The mushrooms pop and hiss. You add a pinch of ash knot because it's tasty, but because it's there and looks like seasoning. You chew slowly, tangy, earthy, barely edible, but filling, sort of. You stretch your meal with roasted bark shavings. This is what you call forest tapas. Historians still argue about what early humans actually ate in their daily lives. Some say they relied mostly on starchy roots and nuts. Others insist meat played a central role. And a few fringe anthropologists believe humans had far more varied, plant-heavy diets than we credit them for, almost gourmet, minus the waiters. You try building a drying rack using a Y-shaped frame and some bent twigs. It's wobbly, but it holds. You lay thin mushroom slices on it to dry. Preservation feels powerful. You're not just reacting anymore, you're planning, preparing, plotting against hunger like a prehistoric chef with a one-item menu. That afternoon, you sharpen Pointy by rubbing its edge on a sandstone chunk. It takes forever. Your wrist aches. But by the end, it could almost poke through a leaf. Almost. Still, if something jumps at you now, you can wave it menacingly. To distract yourself from your wrist cramp, you sketch in the dirt with a stick. A simple sun. A tiny figure you, holding fire. You draw your shelter, your spear, your hand drill. It's silly, but strangely grounding. A story in lines and smudges. Something ancient. Then you hear it footsteps. You freeze. Listen. A heavy rustling in the brush. Your heart jackhammers. You grab Pointy, inch toward the noise. It's a boar. A real grunting, mud-crusted boar, rooting around 30 feet away. It hasn't seen you. You crouch behind a bush. Breath held. You consider throwing Pointy. But this isn't a movie, and you're not a prehistoric ninja. You wait. It snorts, snuffles, then wanders off. You exhale hard. Later, beside the fire, you replay that moment. You didn't run. You didn't scream. You froze, assessed, stayed quiet. That might not seem heroic, but it's survival smarts. The forest goes quiet as dusk settles in. Your fire is small tonight. Wood is low but still steady. You light a little moss torch and wave it around your lean-to like some ceremonial blessing. The warm light flickers across the bark walls. You're oddly comforted. Your bed of ferns creaks beneath you. The roof holds. No rain. No wind. The coals glow a soft orange. And as you close your eyes, you realize something powerful. You're not just surviving anymore. You're adapting. You've claimed this patch of wild as your own. And for one strange, quiet night, the wild doesn't argue. The morning doesn't so much arrive as it slowly leaks into your world. You wake not from sound or sunlight, but from a chill creeping up your legs and the ache of too many nights on ferns. The air is thick with mist, and the light, if you can call it that, is the kind of gray that makes you feel like the sun hit snooze. You open your eyes to the ceiling of bark and twig you now call home. There's a gentle, rhythmic drip somewhere nearby. Dew, or maybe last night's rain lingering in the trees. Your mouth is dry. Your limbs feel heavy. But your first coherent thought is clear. You're still alive. You sit up slowly, spine popping, and crawl out of the lean-to. Outside, the world is wet and still. Your fire has dwindled into a small patch of sullen embers. No flame yet, but not gone either. You crouch and breathe gently on it, hands cupped around the coals. You feed it a few strips of dried moss and watch as the first tiny flame reawakens. Good morning, old friend. You shuffle over to your water pit. A few drops have gathered in the folded leaf basin. You sip. It's cold, tastes faintly of bark and earth. A bug floats lazily near the edge. You drink anyway. You've stopped being picky. Hydration over hesitation. The next order of business? Food. You chew the last of the dried mushroom you saved. It's shriveled and rubbery. You pretend it tastes like jerky. It does not. Your stomach growls, unimpressed. Hunger doesn't just live in your belly anymore. It echoes in your bones. A dull, constant gnawing that drags your mood into the mud. So you rise, pick up Pointy, and go hunting. Or at least wandering with the vague hope of something edible crossing your path. The forest is different now. Not safer, but more familiar. You've learned where your feet won't sink and where the thorn bushes hide. You walk slower, quieter. You listen to the wind, the rustle of underbrush, the far-off splash of water. Every sound is a message now, not just background noise. Then you spot a squirrel. It freezes. You freeze. Your eyes lock. You raise Pointy. It chitters an insult in squirrel and vanishes up a tree. You lower your arm and sigh, probably for the best. Even if you'd hit it, gutting and cooking a squirrel still feels like a mental line you're not ready to cross. Yet, instead, you poke around a rotten log and find something marginally worse. Grubs. Plump, shiny, and utterly disgusting. You suppress a gag and collect them in a curled leaf. These are survival calories. You've already eaten worse. Possibly. Back at camp, you roast them over the fire. They pop and hiss, and one even squirts something onto your leg. You pretend it's seasoning. The first bite is crunchy on the outside, gooey on the inside, like a meat-filled jelly bean. You grimace, and then you eat 3 more. They're fine. Terrible, but fine. Historians still argue whether early humans embraced insects as a delicacy or a last resort. Some modern researchers say insects were common in prehistoric diets. Others think we only resorted to them during lean times. You? You're leaning into them out of necessity, not affection. After the meal, you stretch your back and decide to make yourself useful. You've noticed certain vines near the water that bend without snapping. You collect a bundle and sit down by the fire to experiment. Twist, loop, pull. Your fingers cramp. You keep going. The pattern becomes soothing, almost like meditation. Eventually, you've got a rough cord. Then 2. You braid them together and make your first real tool of the day, a sling. Not a weapon yet, but a way to carry rocks or food or grubs. You tie it around your shoulder. It swings with a satisfying weight as you walk. Feeling bold, you attempt to trap. You recall a deadfall design from somewhere, maybe a survival show or a book. You find a flat stone, carve a notched stick, and gather some berry pulp for bait. Setting it up takes time and swearing. You knock it over twice. The third attempt stands barely, but it's something. You set it along a trail where you saw squirrel tracks, whispering encouragement like it's a shy pet. Come on, be helpful. The rest of the day is spent exploring. You head toward the stream again and find new treasures. A patch of wild mint, a pine tree dripping with resin, even a few bugs that don't look actively poisonous. You collect them all carefully, storing things in your new sling like some prehistoric grocery tote. The mint especially lifts your spirits. You chew a leaf and nearly weep at the burst of flavor. It's like brushing your teeth with the forest. You'll never underestimate freshness again. You also take a moment to examine your surroundings with fresh eyes. Not just for danger or food, but for beauty. The way moss climbs the side of a fallen log, the way water glides over stones. You start to wonder if early humans were ever too busy surviving to notice things like that, or if, in fact, noticing them was survival in its own way. You sit beside the stream and run your hands through the cool water. There's a kind of peace here, one you didn't think was possible. You don't have a clock. You don't have a checklist. You just exist, hungry, itchy, sore, but calm. Eventually, the sky begins to dim. You walk back to camp under a canopy of pink and orange. Your fire greets you like an old friend. You toss in fresh wood, check your trap, still empty, and stretch your sore shoulders. Then, for the first time since you arrived here, you let yourself daydream. What if you made a better shelter? What if you carved a spoon? What if you figured out how to fish? For a moment, the idea of a tomorrow doesn't feel terrifying. It feels doable. You hum softly beside the fire, a tune from nowhere, just vibration in your chest and warmth on your skin. And when you curl up under your bark roof, stomach only half full, you feel strangely okay. Not good, not safe, but okay. You're adapting, you're learning, and best of all, you're still here. You wake before the sun, not because of danger or hunger, but because your body has slowly adjusted to the rhythm of the forest. No alarm, no glowing screen, just a sense that the day has quietly tapped you on the shoulder and whispered, "It's time." You stretch in your lean-to. Your joints complain, but less than they used to. Your back cracks satisfyingly as you sit upright. You glance over at the little fire pit, cold, ash gray, but you smile. Because last night, you remembered to bury a coal deep in the moss bedding beside it. You prod it now still warm. You cradle it gently and feed it some bark shavings. And just like that, it breathes back to life. You don't even need to think about it anymore. You're doing what countless humans did for tens of thousands of years, keeping a flame alive not with lighters or matches, but by planning ahead, knowing what to save, what to gather, what to burn. You're living fire culture, one breath at a time. Outside the shelter, morning fog hugs the ground. The air is damp but not cold, the kind of weather that makes your nose feel awake. Birds are chirping again, tentative little chirps at first, as though checking in on each other. Still alive? Still good? Then the full chorus returns. You rise and head straight to your trap. Yesterday's sparrow episode taught you something. You can build something that works, But also, you're not quite ready to kill anything with eyes and feathers and little twitchy hearts. Not yet. Still, you approach the spot with anticipation. The rock is still upright, trap untouched. You sigh, both relieved and disappointed. You toss out the bait and reset it anyway. A squirrel might be bolder today, or a weasel. You're not sure what you'd do with a weasel, honestly, but you'd figure it out. You grab Pointy and head out to gather more pine needles, greens, and if luck is generous, some edible roots. Along the way, you hum a tune. Nothing complicated, just a loop of 5 notes you made up yesterday. It feels comforting. By the stream, you squat beside a patch of green that looks vaguely familiar. The leaves are broad, with a faint reddish tinge. You rub a leaf between your fingers and sniff. Peppery. You nibble a corner. It doesn't sting. It doesn't numb your mouth. It actually tastes okay. You decide to take a chance. You harvest a handful, rinse them in the stream, and chew slowly, letting the flavors settle before swallowing. Still alive. So far, so good. Nearby, a patch of soft mud reveals animal prints. Deep, triangular. Probably a deer. You crouch and press your hand into one. Still damp. You're not about to go chasing anything that size, but it's comforting to know you're not the only large mammal trying to get by out here. On your way back, you discover a small, shallow pool under the roots of an ancient tree. Rainwater must be collected there. Floating in it are dozens of little black bugs, paddling their tiny legs. You watch them for a while. Some swim in circles. Others bump into each other like they're late for a meeting. They're alive, chaotic, and totally unaware of you. It's oddly hypnotic. You scoop some clean water from the edge and pour it into your leaf bowl. Another half ration. Not much, but every drop counts. When you return to camp, you decide today is the day to improve comfort. Not survival, not food, not fire. Just comfort. You begin with your bed. You strip out the flattened fern layer and go searching for dry ones. You find a mossy patch under a fallen log and gather handfuls thick, bouncy, and relatively bug-free. You layer them in your lean-to and top it with a new pile of fragrant pine needles. It smells better than most hotel rooms you've stayed in. Next up, walls. You weave long grasses between the support beams of your shelter to fill in the gaps. It's fiddly work, but strangely satisfying. You get into a rhythm under, over, twist, tuck. By the time you finish, there's a noticeable difference in wind chill inside. You crawl in, lie down, and grin like a proud possum. You even build a tiny rack next to your fire for drying things. Just a forked stick with a crossbar, but it feels luxurious. You place your damp shoe swell, bark wrappings on it, and watch the steam rise. The sun climbs higher, filtering through the trees and ribbons of gold. You sit beside your fire, chewing on a stick of bitter root and sipping bark-flavored tea. You made it by steeping pine needles and crushed mint leaves in hot water. It tastes like tree, but tree with flair. You spend the afternoon carving, not because you need a tool, but because your hands need something to do. You sit with Stony and a chunk of soft wood, shaving curls off slowly, steadily. Eventually, a shape begins to form. A crude animal, maybe a bird, maybe a lizard, maybe something in between. You give it tiny eyes and etch little lines for feathers. Congratulations. You've made cave art you can carry. Historians still argue whether early humans developed art from boredom, religion, or the simple urge to leave a mark. But right now, sitting cross-legged by your fire, carving a nonsense creature out of driftwood, you get it. You want to say, I was here. I made something. Evening comes slower today. You've stopped counting hours. You just move when the light changes. You rest when it darkens. The fire crackles again. You feed it a mix of twigs, bark, and pine sap. It flares up warmly. You stretch your legs, lean back on your elbows, and stare at the leaves swaying above. You feel capable, not comfortable, not full, but steady. The forest no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a roommate you're starting to get along with. You pull your new wood creature from your pocket and place it on a rock near the fire. Just a little companion to keep watch. And when the stars come out, you're already under your shelter, warmish, not afraid. You're not just surviving. You're starting to live. You wake up to a sound you haven't heard in a while. The slow drip of water from somewhere above, splashing softly onto something leafy nearby. At first, your brain fumbles, unsure whether it's dream or memory. But then you feel it, the damp chill in the air, the soggy ferns pressed against your side, and the unmistakable smell of wet earth mixed with pine. You blink your eyes open. Your lean-to has held, mostly. No leaks, no cave-ins. But moisture clings to everything. Your fingers are pruny. Your nose tingles from the coolness. And then the real problem hits you. The fire. You bolt upright, heart already beating faster. You scramble to the fire pit and hover your hand just above the ash. Cold. Too cold. You sift through the remains, hoping maybe, just maybe somewhere, deep under the pile, a coal still waits. But no. Nothing. Not even a glow. The fire's out. Not sputtering or low or nearly out. Gone. Your stomach drops. You sit back on your heels, staring into the pit like it's betrayed you. So much of your world, your comfort, your rhythm, your fragile sense of control has revolved around that fire. It's been your warmth, your protection, your cooking flame, your nightlight, your companion. And now, gone. You inhale deeply and hold it, then slowly exhale, trying not to fall into panic. You've done this before. You can do it again. This isn't the end, just a major, smoky inconvenience. You gather the materials, just like last time. Birch bark, pine shavings, dried moss, most of it's a little damp, but workable. You find a stick and a flat piece of wood and begin crafting your friction fire tools all over again. You cut a notch, press the spindle into its place, and kneel over it like a determined little caveman. You spin. The stick squeals. The wood smokes. Your arms burn. You spin harder. Your knees dig into the earth. Blisters bubble along your palms, but you grit your teeth and keep going. Minutes pass. Then more. And finally a wisp. A tiny thread of gray smoke rises from the notch. You almost forget how to breathe. You shield it from the breeze, blow gently, and drop in your kindling like it's a fragile secret. The ember catches. It grows. A curl of flame lifts from your bundle, and before long, the fire is reborn. You collapse backward onto the forest floor and just stare at the sky, panting and grinning like someone who just won a reality show by sheer willpower. Fire is life. Historians still argue when exactly early humans began making fire rather than merely capturing it from nature. Some think it was Homo erectus nearly 2 million years ago. Others argue it wasn't until Homo sapiens learned to reliably control combustion with tools. But one thing is certain. The moment our ancestors figured out how to summon fire from nothing, we stopped merely surviving and started shaping the world. You feel that shift now. You boil water for pine tea knot because it's delicious, but because warm liquid feels like a victory. You roast a couple of bark beetles, chew them like chewy popcorn, and plot your next move. There's still a trap to check. You walk carefully, quietly, through the underbrush. Dew clings to every surface, soaking your ankles and chilling your toes. But you feel lighter today, stronger. Fire does that. It puts the balance back in your favor. You spot your trap before the prey spots you. Movement, small, brown, definitely alive. You crouch and peer closer. A rodent, bigger than the last one. Maybe even edible without needing a side of moss garnish. It's scared, of course. Twitching, whiskers flaring. You feel that familiar ache of hesitation rise up in your throat. But this time, your hunger leans heavier on the scale. You whisper a quiet, strange sort of apology, and then you do what you have to do. Later, at the fire, you clean and roast the animal slowly. You've learned how to do it better. Now less waste, less mess. The meat crackles as it cooks, and the smell, while not exactly appetizing, is definitely not the worst thing you've ever smelled out here. You eat slowly, methodically, savoring each bite for what it represents. Progress, nourishment, proof that you're adapting. After the meal, you rinse your hands in the stream. The water's cold and soothing, washing away more than just grime. It washes away some part of the old you, the one who couldn't imagine making fire from scratch or taking a life to eat. Now, you're surviving, and you're not ashamed. The rest of the day unfolds gently. You patch up the sides of your shelter, adding thicker leaves and stuffing more moss between gaps. You even create a little overhang with bark slabs, a primitive gutter system that might keep you drier next time it rains. You rebind the trap with more tension this time, adjusting the angle like a pro. You're not just guessing anymore. You're engineering. And then you find a flat stone near the stream's mouth, the size of your palm. It calls to you. You carry it back to camp and begin scratching it with a smaller rock. It takes time, but soon a shape begins to form. It's a spiral. No reason for it, just something to do. Something that feels human. You set it next to your little carved animals, like a sacred stone. You don't know why, you just do. Evening arrives on quiet feet. The sky turns amber, then violet. The fire flickers brighter against the deepening dark. You sip hot pine tea, knees pulled to your chest, and stare at the shapes your carvings cast on the rock. You're not just surviving anymore. You're shaping your world bit by bit, spark by spark. And you're doing okay. You wake before the sun this time, not in fear, not from a dream, just a quiet stirring in your body, like the forest itself tapped you on the shoulder and said, "It's time." There's a softness in the air, cool and damp, heavy with the scent of moss and yesterday's rain. The sky above your shelter is still deep blue, almost purple, with just a hint of gold blooming along the horizon. You stretch beneath your pine needle blanket, yawn through cracked lips, and blink sleep from your eyes. The forest hasn't woken up yet, no birds, no squirrels, just wind shifting through leaves and the soft crackle of your fire, still smoldering with quiet embers. You smile a little. You kept it alive through the night. A small victory, but it feels enormous. You crawl out of your shelter and add a few dry twigs. The fire flickers in response, slow and stubborn at first, but warming to the task. It always seems to wake up like you dog groggy, but willing. You fan it gently, coaxing it back to life with your breath. Soon, steam rises from your little bark pot. You've started boiling water every morning, partly to stay warm, partly to feel civilized. You drop in some mint leaves and crushed pine needles, watching the green swirl and dance. It's not exactly Starbucks, but the bitter tang feels comforting now, like something earned. You cradle the warm brew in your hands and sit on your favorite flat stone. From here, you can see the stream, the clearing, and the faint trail you made yesterday heading west. Everything's calm, still, yours. After sipping your tea slowly, you grab Pointy and make your way toward the trap. It's become routine now, this early morning errand in your makeshift schedule. You walk carefully, scanning the ground as you go. Animal tracks, mushrooms, fallen branches. You see things differently now. Nothing is background anymore. Everything is either tool, threat, or food. The trap is still set, but this time, something's inside. A squirrel. Small, gray-brown, trembling. It locks eyes with you. Big, wet eyes full of fear and confusion. You hesitate. Of course you do. You kneel beside it, fingers twitching, thoughts whirring. You could let it go. You've eaten recently. You're not starving today. But that's exactly why you should do it now, because you're not desperate, because your hands are steady and your aim is clean. You whisper something, maybe a thank you, maybe nothing at all, and do what needs to be done. It's over quickly, not clean, not painless, but better than it might have been on a hungrier day. You carry the squirrel back to camp in silence. No celebration, no guilt either. Just the simple weight of survival. At the fire, you clean it carefully. You're faster now, neater. The steps come without thinking. You've learned where to cut, how to peel, how to roast over open flame without burning the meat or yourself. The smell is not great, but it's food. It's energy. It's earned. You eat slowly, thoughtfully, chew each bite with quiet intention. Afterward, you boil more water and wash your hands, your face, your blade. You scrub until your fingers are pink and raw, not because you fear disease, but because you crave some sense of ritual, some control. When the cleanup is done, you wander to the stream to refill your container. That's when you see them. Footprints. Not yours. Not definitely human, but large enough. Spaced differently. Wider. Maybe a bear. Maybe a wandering deer. But maybe something else. You crouch, heart suddenly a little louder in your ears. You press your hand into the mud beside the track and compare. It's close. Not an exact match, but still unsettling. You scan the trees. Stillness. A breeze flutters overhead. A branch creaks somewhere deeper in the forest, but nothing stirs nearby. Still, your muscles stay tight. Ready. You mark the location in your mind and back away slowly, eyes flicking from trunk to trunk. Back at camp, you reinforce everything. Add branches to the outer walls. Wedge extra stones at the base. Sharpen Pointy to a mean glint. And then, just for a touch of psychological warfare, you plant a few sharpened sticks into the ground near your shelter entrance, pointing outward. A clear, if primitive, message. Someone lives here. Someone ready to fight. Historians still argue whether early humans were more afraid of wild animals or of rival tribes. Some think wolves were our greatest danger. Others point to hostile bands of fellow humans, roaming for food or territory. Either way, fear has always been a tool and a warning. You spend the rest of the afternoon in a kind of quiet readiness. You stay close, gather wood, repack your supplies, check your backup kindling. You even clean your fire pit and reinforce the rock ring, as if it needs to be perfect in case someone sees it, but no one comes. Instead, the forest slowly exhales. The sun arcs above, lighting the canopy in shifting gold. Birds return. A squirrel chatters somewhere in the distance, maybe mourning its cousin, you think, then feel bad. You sit near the fire and carve a new figure. Not an animal this time, a person. Or something like a person. Broad shoulders, tiny arms. You press 2 eyes into its head with the tip of your blade, then rest it next to the others. You lean back and study them all. Your growing collection of wooden weirdos. You smile. You're building culture. Evening slides in with gentle feet. The sky turns lavender, and the light grows soft. You sip hot pine mint tea and warm your hands near the fire. Tonight, you keep it burning tall. A signal, a guard. You lie down, eventually, wrapped in pine and shadow, and stare at the flickering firelight, painting strange shapes across the trees. You still don't know if something's watching. But if it is, you're ready. The morning greets you with a kind of gentleness you've come to treasure. No jolting dreams, no creaking branches to jolt your heart into motion. Just the soft glow of light brushing against your eyelids and the low rustle of the forest stretching itself awake. You open your eyes and inhale deeply, catching the scent of smoke, pine, and something faintly sweet in the air, maybe damp moss warming on stone. Your fire is low, but it's there. Loyal as ever, flickering like a sleepy pet that waited up for you. You stretch your limbs slowly, deliberately, joints cracking in protest, and crawl out of your pine needle bed. The earth is cold on your knees, but not unfriendly. You're getting used to the bite of the morning. You nudge the coals to life with a stick, feeding them birch bark and dry shavings from the bundle you tucked under your shelter's edge last night. Within moments, flame curls upward like a yawn. You crouch over it, hands extended, letting the warmth draw away the last of your sleep. Your tea routine begins automatically. Water into bark pot, pine needles, a few mint leaves. You watch the little swirl of steam rise and sigh with contentment. You never thought you'd look forward to something so unremarkable. But here you are, sipping boiled foliage like it's morning espresso. After breakfast, you set to work. Chores. That's what you call them now, chores. Like this is your apartment and not a patch of wilderness. You start by tidying up camp. You rebuild part of the lean-to roof that sagged after last night's rain. You check your storage nook, where you've stashed foraged roots and a few roasted beetles wrapped in leaves. Still dry. No scavengers. Then, of course, the trap. You check it with a weird mixture of dread and hope. It's empty. No squirrel, no vole, not even a nibbled mint leaf. You sigh, crouch beside it, and reset the tension. You've gotten pretty good at it. Your knots are quicker now. Your angles cleaner. If trapping were a high school subject, you'd be somewhere between a B+ and an A, depending on how hungry your teacher was. Hunger creeps in again. You try to ignore it, but it's there hollow and patient. You think of yesterday, when you noticed the cattails near the stream. Roots, food, sort of. You grab Pointy, your digging stick, and a sharpened rock, and make your way down to the water. The cattail patch is thick and muddy. You roll up your pant legs, not that it matters, and step in, sinking past your ankles. Cold mud squeezes between your toes. You shiver and mutter something sarcastic to the birds watching from the branches. Don't mind me. Just harvesting soggy soup ingredients. You dig for a long time. Your fingers cramp. Your legs ache from squatting. But eventually, you pull out a small pile of thick, ropey roots. You rinse them in the stream, scrubbing away mud and bugs, and tie them together with a strip of bark. Back at camp, you roast them slowly. They hiss and steam, the earthy scent rising like baked potatoes left too long in a garden. You eat cautiously, chewing each bite like it might explode. But it doesn't. It just fills the space. Not satisfying, not enjoyable, but grounding. You lean back after eating and close your eyes for a moment. That's when you hear it. Voices, distant, faint. You freeze. At first, you think it's wind or maybe a dream lingering behind your eyes. But no, you hear it again. Murmuring, laughter, talking. It's hard to tell, but it's not the forest. It's people. You crouch low, all senses sharpened. You move toward the edge of your camp, careful not to make a sound. The forest holds its breath with you. No birds, no rustling, just tension wrapped in pine-scented silence. The voices drift on the breeze, muffled, distorted by trees, but undeniably human. You strain your ears. You can't tell how many. 2, 3, maybe more. You catch snippets of tone, not words. They sound casual, not angry, not hunting, but you can't be sure. Historians still argue whether early humans were more fearful of predators or each other. Some evidence suggests that the biggest danger to a lone forager wasn't a saber-toothed cat, but another human, just as hungry, just as desperate. You crouch behind a log, watching, listening, trying not to breathe too loudly. Eventually the voices fade. No footsteps come near. No figures appear. But they were real. You're not alone. That knowledge settles over you, like a second skin. Heavy. It presses into your spine. You gather your things slowly and return to the fire, your eyes scanning the trees every few seconds. You decide to fortify your shelter, not because you think someone will attack, but because you might sleep better knowing there's something, anything, between you and the unknown. You gather long sticks, sharpen the ends, dig small holes, and wedge them into the dirt around your lean-to in a half-circle, primitive fencing. You stack rocks around the fire, making the pit deeper, more contained, harder to spot from far away. You even tie a few simple noisemaker spine cones strung with bark strip along low-hanging branches nearby. If something comes too close, they'll rattle. Not much, but enough. As the light fades, you sit by the fire and hold Pointy close. Your hands tremble a little, not from cold, from the sudden shift in your world. Until now, the forest has felt empty, like a blank page where you could scribble your own rules. Now, there's a possibility that someone else is writing here too. You carve a new figure, not a bird or a bear this time, a person, just a vague shape with wide eyes and an open mouth. You don't know if it's meant to be a warning or a welcome. You place it facing the trail watching. Night falls. You build your fire higher than usual. Let it crackle, tall and fierce. Let it say, someone is here, someone with fire. And then you lie down in your shelter, Pointy within reach, and stare at the shadows dancing on the bark walls. You're not sure what tomorrow holds, but tonight, you're ready. The forest greets you differently today, not in sound or color, but in mood, as if the trees themselves have shifted in their sleep, now peeking at you from behind their thick bark with a curiosity they hadn't shown before. You sit up slowly, your blanket of pine needles crackling faintly beneath you, and notice that the usual dawn chorus has toned itself down. No bursts of birdsong, just a few cautious chirps, like they too are aware that something has changed. Your fire has dwindled to little more than a whisper-soft orange coals tucked beneath a layer of gray ash. You lean over and tend it with a kind of reverence, feeding it birch bark and brittle twigs until the flames stretch upward with reluctant arms. The warmth seeps back into your hands, but your thoughts remain cold. The voices you heard yesterday still echo in your mind, not just as sound, but as weight. You try to replay them, the rise and fall of tone, the cadence, the way they floated through the trees like leaves in wind. Not close, but not far enough for comfort, and not animal, definitely human. The realization that you're not alone has restructured the world. Your camp feels smaller. Your fire feels louder. Even your breathing feels like something you should be doing more quietly. After you drink your morning tea, now familiar blend of pine needle and mint that tastes like Christmas and wet socks, you begin your day differently. No foraging, no tool making. You squat down with a stick and start tracing a map in the dirt. It's crude, more memory than measurement. You etch the stream to the east, the slope to the west, the cattail marsh, where your hands went numb in the mud. You draw an X where you think the voices came from, and you realize something. Your whole world is about the size of a city block. So you decide to expand it. You gather your usual essentials pointy. Of course, your bark rope pouch with dried mushrooms and a few roasted beetles, and a small stone carving, the owl from a few days ago. You tie a mint leaf to the carving's base for luck, or superstition, or both. You head north, not directly toward the voices, but along a curved route that keeps you aware of the area. The forest here thickens. The trees are older, more gnarled. Vines dangle like jungle ropes. You walk more carefully, ears tuned for every crunch of leaf, every rustle of fern. Even the birds seem to hush as you pass. After about 30 minutes, you find a sign. It's subtle, just a series of broken branches leading down a narrow slope. You follow it and find a clearing, nearly hidden from the path. At its center, a fire pit. Not ancient, not recent. A ring of stones, scattered ash. Someone else warmed their hands here. You crouch by the pit. The ash is cool, but not washed away. A few old footprints mar the soil nearby, partly obscured by wind and time. One is smaller than yours. A child? A small woman? You study them for a moment longer, then slowly stand. No belongings, no bones, no shelter. Just the evidence of presence, a ghost of heat. Historians still argue about early human interaction. Were strangers enemies or allies? Did groups fight, trade, ignore one another? There's little agreement, only the certainty that survival rarely encouraged trust. You leave the site as you found it, brushing away your own footprints as best you can. As you walk, you loop back in a wider arc, eyes scanning the undergrowth. You find a few more sign-scut reeds by the stream, a piece of bark peeled off cleanly, not by animal teeth, but by tool. Someone has been harvesting nearby. Back at your own camp, the sun has started its descent. You feel both more secure and more exposed. Your little patch of forest is not your own. It never was. Now, it simply feels shared. You reinforce your shelter-nothing fancy. Just extra leaves tucked into the roof. A few large stones moved to the entrance for a bit of psychological weight. Then you carve a new figure. Not a creature this time, but a shape. A wide eye. You etch it into bark, then set it at the camp's edge, facing the direction you traveled. A symbol. A silent message. You eat sparingly, bit of cattail root, a few beetles. You chew slowly, not because you want to savor them, but because you need to think. As twilight deepens, the forest begins its nightly transformation. The shadows grow longer. The wind grows quieter. You light your fire with less enthusiasm than usual, keeping it low and tightly fed. Enough to keep the dark at bay, but not enough to send smoke signals to unknown eyes. You sit by the fire, holding your stone owl, fingers brushing over its grooves. You wonder who those others were, wanderers like you. Hunters? A family? Could they be as afraid of you as you are of them? You place the owl on a rock beside you, facing outward, just in case it has better eyesight than you. And then you whisper into the flames, "I'm here." You're not sure who you're talking to. Maybe yourself. Maybe the woods. Maybe them. The fire crackles back, indifferent. By now, the forest knows you. It knows your footfall, your breath, the way you pause every few steps to listen. It has memorized the scent of smoke clinging to your skin and the soft pad of your footsteps on damp leaves. You no longer wake up startled. You rise like mist, slow and deliberate, letting your eyes open before your limbs move. Every motion is quiet. Every sound you make is one you've approved. The air this morning is thick and low, heavy with dew. You sit up inside your shelter and press your palm to the packed dirt beneath the bed of ferns. It's cool, almost wet. The moisture has crept in overnight, tracing your footprint, softening everything. A fog has settled into the forest, the kind that blurs the edges of your vision and swallows sound. You listen and hear nothing. No birds, no rustling, just a slow, dripping hush. Your fire is nearly out. You coax the embers with care, feeding them slivers of dry bark and puffing warm air into their glow. It takes longer than usual, but finally, a flicker, then a curl of flame. The warmth comes like an old friend, reluctant but comforting. You wrap your arms around your knees and sit beside it, drawing little spirals into the dirt with a stick. Breakfast is light. 2 dried grubs and a strip of cattail root, reheated near the edge of the flame. It tastes earthy, chewy better than nothing, but only just. You've learned not to dwell on flavor. You chew slowly and let your thoughts wander. It's been days now since you heard those voices, and though nothing has happened since, their presence lingers. You haven't seen anyone, haven't found any more signs, but the silence feels loaded now, like the forest is holding its breath. You decide today is for shoring up. Your shelter has kept you mostly dry, mostly warm, but mostly ain't enough anymore. You peel away a section of the bark roof and rebuild it with overlapping layers, angling the grain of each piece to channel rain away. You use long grasses like thread, weaving panels together and tucking ferns into the seams. Then you dig shallow trenches along the outside, channels to catch and carry water away when the next storm rolls in. While you work, you hum, just softly, a tune with no name, probably invented right then and there. The sound keeps you calm, and maybe it tells the trees you mean no harm. Next is the perimeter. You walk slow circles around your shelter, eyes scanning for disturbances. You mark trees with new notches. You stack stones in deliberate patterns. You even bend a sapling into a gentle arch, threading a bit of bark cord through its branches, so if someone brushes it, it'll snap and fall with a faint sound. A whisper alarm. You pause beside your most recent carving, a little humanoid figure with arms raised. It faces outward still, like a sentinel. You adjust its posture and whisper, "Still on watch?" before stepping past it. Midday comes quietly. The sun, is hidden behind a ceiling of gray, and your body aches from crouching and hauling stones. You sit beside your fire again, letting the smoke wrap around you like a shawl. You sip warm water. You chew mint leaves. You try to remember the taste of fruit. Then you go check your traps. It takes a while to reach them, spread wide, so you don't overhunt any one place. 3 of them are untouched. 1 is sprung, but empty. Another has caught a bird, small and limp. You bow your head and whisper thanks. You pluck it gently from the snare and carry it back with care. Cleaning it is quick now. You've learned the movements. They're not pretty, but they're necessary. You cook it slowly, spitting it over low coals, letting the fat drip and sizzle. The smell fills your camp like a feast. It draws birds back to the trees, chirping again, timidly. Even the forest is tempted. As you eat, you feel a strange sense of pride. Not joy, not excitement, just steadiness, like you've earned something. Not the food itself, but the moment, the fire, the full belly, the rhythm of your breath. You're still here. Later, you carve. A spiral this time. Wide, then narrow, etched into a flat piece of bark. You don't know what it means exactly, only that it came from your hands. You hang it from a branch near your shelter. Maybe it says safe. Maybe it says go away. Maybe both. Then a sound, distant, sharp. You freeze, hands still on the carving. A crack of wood, a pause, then a flutter of leaves. Not wind. You crouch low, breath caught in your throat. Every sound is suddenly louder. Your heartbeat, your shallow inhale, the hiss of firewood settling. Nothing else follows. But you don't relax. You extinguish your fire partially, banking the coals under ash. You bury the bird bones. You brush away footprints around your shelter. Then you crawl inside and wait. Evening settles in, blue and dim. You lie there in silence, eyes wide, ears straining. You hear nothing more, but that doesn't comfort you. The silence has shape now. It wraps around your thoughts, tight and unforgiving. Historians still debate whether early humans lived in constant fear or learned to coexist with their environment. Were they always looking over their shoulder? Or did they eventually make peace with the unknown? The answer, you suspect, is both. Fear is fuel, but so is familiarity. You roll to your side and pull the furs over your shoulder. You stare at your little carving through a gap in the bark wall. It stares back, arms still raised. Tomorrow, you might venture farther. But tonight, you stay still. Wrapped in the sounds of leaves settling, the creak of branches, and the slow rhythm of your own breath. And somewhere beyond, something or someone still waits. Morning doesn't come with sunlight today. It comes with fog. A thick, white curtain draped over the forest, swallowing trees, whole just a few steps away. You sit up slowly inside your shelter and listen. The world sounds muffled, like your ears are stuffed with cotton. It's quieter than usual, and that's saying something. Your fire is still alive barely, a small orange glow under the ash. You feed it gently. It wakes up slow, like an old man stretching on a cold morning, grumbling but compliant. You hold your hands near it, feeling the warmth return to your fingertips, and you start the day with your usual pine tea. No mint this time, just hot water, pine needles, and patience. Today, you're tired, not just physically, but deeper than that. A kind of tired that sits behind your eyes and doesn't move. Maybe it's the fog. Maybe it's the hunger. Or maybe it's just the weight of being alert for too many days in a row. Still, you stand. You decide to venture farther today. beyond your usual trail loops, past the snares and the little twig markers. You pack a bit of dried mushroom, tie pointy to your belt, and shoulder your bark and fiber pouch. You hesitate before leaving and glance at the stone spiral you hung near your camp. You touch it once, like a good luck charm, then turn and vanish into the mist. The fog changes everything. It turns the forest into a maze. Trees loom and disappear. Distances lie. Sound bends strangely. You walk carefully, checking your bearings, using landmarks, mossy rocks, a three-pronged tree stump, the notch you carved into a thick pine to navigate. After about an hour, you find something strange. A circle of stones, bigger than any fire pit you've seen. Not ancient, not new. The stones are tall, placed intentionally. Inside the ring, the grass is worn. There are signs of life here. Pressed leaves, scattered ash, and a stick with one end charred and blackened. It's not yours, and it's not wild. You crouch near the edge, ears tuned to every bird, every creak. The place is empty, but not abandoned. Someone was here. Recently. You scan the trees around the site, looking for movement, but the fog has made everything ghostly. Even your breath looks suspicious. You kneel and touch the center stone smooth on one side, rough on the other. It's warm. Or maybe that's your imagination. Either way, you feel watched. Not threatened exactly, but observed. You leave a single object behind. A carvinga, little round one, with no face, no arms, just the suggestion of a body. You place it gently on the flat rock in the center of the circle. A silent offering. You stand and walk away without looking back. You loop back wide to avoid being followed, if anyone is even near. You move carefully, covering your tracks where you can, sweeping them away with branches or stepping on stones. It's slow, but your body is used to it now. Everything you do is deliberate. When you return to camp, nothing has changed. Everything is still where you left it. The spiral hanging from the tree, the bark shelter, the flattened ferns where you slept. But you check it all anyway. Twice. You stir the fire. You sift through your stash of roots. You feel something between paranoia and preparedness, which, in this world, are basically the same thing. You eat what's left of the mushrooms. You chew slowly. The taste is bitter. They're old, and your jaw aches. But you're used to that now. Later, you carve again. You sit near the fire, pointy across your knees, and you etch a new shape into wood a spiral inside a circle, inside a triangle. You don't know what it means. Maybe it's just what your hands needed to do. Maybe it's a map to nowhere. As night falls, the fog lifts just enough to reveal the stars above the trees. You see them and blink almost surprised. They've been hidden for so long, you'd forgotten they were still there. You stare up and wonder, are they watching you? Do they care? Probably not. But you say goodnight to them anyway. You crawl into your shelter and pull your furs over your head. You listen to the forest settling crickets beginning to chirp again, an owl hooting in the distance. Even the rustling seems gentler tonight. And for the first time in days, you feel something like peace. You're still hungry, still wary, still unsure of tomorrow, but you're here, alive, breathing, watching, and maybe, just maybe, being watched by someone else who chose not to strike, not to shout, but to simply let you be. And in a world without fire, that quiet choice, that's the closest thing to kindness. So now, as your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts begin to stretch and fade like shadows at dusk, let's leave the forest behind for a little while. Let the weight of the day melt into the warmth of your blanket, and let that soft hum whether from a fan or a quiet night breeze, be your companion for just a while longer. You've been through a lot tonight. You've felt hunger, watched fire flicker and falter, wondered who might be watching from the trees. You built a world with only your hands, your instincts, and whatever nature was willing to offer. And though it wasn't easy, you made it. You endured. Let that idea settle gently with you. Now that even in the hardest places, even in the cold, in the dark, in the quiet, you held on. You adapted. And sometimes you even thrived. As you lie still, your breath slow and steady, picture the forest one last time not as a place of fear, but of rhythm, of whispers through leaves, of stars barely peeking through the canopy, of firelight flickering across a carved figure's face. Let those images cradle you now. The danger is gone. The fire is warm. The woods are watching, but not unkindly. Sleep well, brave soul of the wild. End of story. Sweet dreams.